Hello guys, this is my talk with world record tier Factorio speedrunner Varger. We'll talk about 100% category, which is beating Factorio while getting all the achievements at the same time. Yeah, it's possible. In addition to that, I will be doing it without imported blueprints. If you want to attempt doing it yourself, or you are simply interested how does this speedrun works,
Why can I not see my radars? What? What the?
then I simply wish you a nice watch. Also, I did some editing and put all the highlights in the description, so you can use this video as a learning resource. It's all from me. Now I'm giving voice mainly to Varger.
Okay, so, what did you want to take a look at?
Everything.
Everything, okay. Do you want to start from my build or from the world record build? 'Cause they
I
are,
guess it's better to start from your build because you are more familiar with it.
Yeah, I mean, they're not super. I mean, the end result is very different, but considering that the bots do most of the stuff, the basic idea is basically the same. But okay, sure.
Okay, I'm catching up. Can you pause the word?
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, now it's completely paused. Probably it's better.
Okay, I hope I'm gonna catch up.
It is quite heavy. This word is huge.
Yeah, the catching up bar is going down instead of up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, I did pause it now, so.
I will try to reconnect maybe. Yeah, it's going down.
Oh god.
Okay, let's try again. I downloaded the map and now when everything was paused, I think I don't need to catch up.
Yeah.
How many UPSs you have on this world?
For me, it's about 71, something like that.
Okay.
But I have quite a beefy PC. While streaming, they go down to about 5.
Okay,
There you go. Okay, can you, if you press Ctrl E, can you go into...
I must have the admin permission
Oh
to
yeah,
do
I
it.
need, that's right. How do
It's
you do that
promote, I
again?
think.
Promote, there you go.
Okay, great.
Okay, so you can see this world is gigantic. If you take a look at the map,
Yeah.
yeah, just check the power plant and the power. It uses like 15 gigawatts of power, 14 actually. Probably I cut some stuff that I didn't need at the end.
Can I launch the game to load everything? Because I see no map and no power.
Oh, okay.
I hope I'm
Yeah,
not gonna broke it.
Crashed for me. No, okay. Now everything
Okay,
is
it's
fine.
saving something.
Wait, why did it unpause?
Because not everything was loaded.
Oh, so I needed to... Okay. Maybe me going into map mode and loading a bunch of things.
Okay, now it's redownloading the map. So I guess we will need to keep the map paused.
I'm setting it to 1/4 speed.
Ah, yeah, it makes sense.
We don't need the word to go actually 1/8 even. No, I can't 1/8. Okay, that's fine. 1/4 should be fine.
How big is this map? I already downloaded 100 megabytes and it's keep going.
Yeah, it's like I think it's 300 megabytes file, something like that.
That's a lot to download.
Because now I probably loaded everything.
Okay, let's see if I gonna catch up. I think it's crashing. This is creating desync report. Wait.
Yeah. Was disconnected as the desynced. Okay. It should not be difficult to do this, honestly.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult. Okay, can you just pause the word? It's gonna be
It is
paused word and just
Okay,
keep it at 0 speed.
Yeah, I will set speed to 0.01, so it actually codes stuff, but it's like 0.1 UPS.
Okay, so I download the map again.
I'm pausing now.
Okay, I'm catching up. Okay, I'm in.
Okay, is it holding?
Yeah, it's fine, but I think when we unpause the game, something will broke.
Okay, now the game speed is 0.1, so let's see if I unpause it.
Okay, it's running. Okay, and everything has loaded.
This does not look like 0.1. This looks more bigger. Now it's 0.1. So it looks like everything is lagging extremely, but in truth, it's hard to move this.
Okay, I think we can just pause the game and go on 1 speed, or you want it to be moving?
No, it's fine. We can keep it paused.
You have to do it without comment.
Yeah, we go.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Okay, so basically the map starts here. Is a section over here with the mixed belt. Can you see the pings?
No.
Oh.
But I can see where you are, so I'm just gonna follow you.
Yeah, so this stuff here, why can I see the pings? Oh, because it's paused, so it doesn't show the pings, of course.
Yeah, but I see your cursor, what you're pointing at.
So this stuff over here is basically the starting mall. What I do is I do this burner stuff here that jump starts my iron production and my copper production. I don't remember where the copper burners are. Oh, here, all the way up here.
Yeah.
And what this does, it basically creates basic components to expand the factory, and also sets some basic research. I like to do 4 labs with 4 level 1 red giant assemblers. But if you do this without a blueprint, this is probably overkill for what you're doing.
Okay, do you have any proper mall? Because this is the lazy bastard, so you're just placing the assembler to craft the stuff, or?
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing I do right after this is just the jumpstart page to get me basically belts and inserters. So I have a furnace production where the stone is, bottom right of the starting area. Now it's replaced with stone miners, but basically just miners into an assembler that create stone furnaces. And that together with these very basic jump starting production creates assemblers, inserters, belts, and the very first thing I do is the mole, which is this one over here.
Okay, I bet it's gonna be harder to do without the blueprints.
Yeah, it's basically this mole does everything you need. The top part is the one I really rush together with assemblers, of course, because the top part gives me inserters, belts, and so on. Early on, everything is level 1 assemblers, and you are gonna upgrade it after you are level 2s, and you have steel and so on. But the most important thing to do early on is to have this starting iron working properly. This is the first line of iron that I do, and together with this mixed belt, which is basically half a coal, half of a bunch of resources that come from the starting base. Nephrums and Dante do this in a different way. They send directly inserters and belts, for example. But I like to send intermediates to jumpstart them all. Basically, you have coal on this line, and gears and green chips. And with the coal, you start the mole. The iron smelting, and the gears and green chips go into the mole and start the production of your components, which is mainly inserters at this point. You need a ton of inserters, especially red and yellow, a tiny bit of blue, but you need blue later on. Then you need a lot of belts and undergrounds, like really a ton of belts and undergrounds, especially if you do this without a blueprint.
Yeah, I saw the building train on different worlds they checked, and yeah, there is a whole cargo with the underground belts and even more.
That is probably the outpost train, and if you move to the bottom of where you are, like all the way here, you will see the big building train.
Oh yeah.
If you check the cargo, it's like 2 full wagons of underground belts, almost 1 wagon of belts, and so on. Almost 1 wagon of inserters, but this is for the outpost. This is for way later in the game.
Well, this is for the green circuits production.
Yeah, that is basically the 2 trains that build the green circuit outposts.
Okay.
But that is almost the last thing you do before starting the outposts.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest problem will be the get on track like a pro to make a train in the very beginning. So I guess I have to practice for it a bit.
Yeah, it is quite hard to do this to get on track like a pro while building everything to expand. However, if you focus on getting on track like a pro, you can do that fairly early on because after steel you need like a couple of researches more. Like I think it's a train and maybe 1 extra. I don't remember now. But it's very easy. So if you really rush the steel build over here, like before doing basically almost everything else, it's not too hard. So to rush the Gotlap achievement, I would suggest doing the mole first of all, because you need a lot of resources. Then setting up half of copper here, only half a line of copper, and doing a very basic red and green science. These red and green science over here.
Okay, I'm making notes.
Oh yeah. If you want, I have a guide which focuses way more on Gotlap than on like other achievements.
Yeah, I definitely gonna take a look at it.
I will send you a link in a second. But yeah, basically you want to do a very basic green and red science. These green and red science that you see here is probably too big for your needs, at least early on. Probably this much will last you for the whole game, so you can probably cut it in half. I have basically 3 times this amount scattered throughout the base because I do 2 science expansions after this. But for you, probably this much is enough. So you can start with half level 1 and only level 1 assemblers.
Okay.
And these, if you go straight into Gotlap for the researches, which basically means let's unresearch everything so we can see what's going on. Okay, so to get to the train, basically you need steel, logistics science pack, logistics, then engine and the logistics too. The big one is logistics too, because that takes a long time. But as you can see, it's like 5 researches, so
Yeah,
it's
true.
not too bad. And while you build the blue science, you can jumpstart the engine production. Basically, these first 4, and you can grab. Sorry, if you do 5, you can just let them build without an output and grab the 20 engines that you need for the train. And everything else is very straightforward because you just need a little bit of stone, like 2 steel, 1 steel, and 1 iron for the rail. So basically, after you are done with the mole, you want to do green and red science. And right after green and red science, by the way, here where you see this big empty space,
Yeah.
it's where the labs used to be. See if I can build something. Basically, they were something like this, and they were these, I think. Yeah, but it's like at the very beginning, I do 30. You probably need a lot less to consume all the science you do. So I would say about 15, 20. 20 probably is good enough, and you can always expand them later if you need a bunch of stuff. Since you are not using the blueprints, you are not gonna be able to have the modules automatically put in them. So it's something you need to do by hand, and it's extremely important to have modules. By the way, these labs were deconstructed because later on I use these labs over here, which are a bit more powerful because they have level 3 modules, a bunch of beacons, and so on. But
Okay.
I don't think, like, if you don't want to bother with level 3 modules, it's fine. You don't necessarily need them. You just need a tiny bit more research, but considering that you're gonna be bottlenecked with the green circuits, it just means that you can't do bot speed 7, the first infinite level. 6, I don't remember which one is the first infinite level.
It's
But, yeah,
6.
basically,
Yeah.
so after doing the mole, the very basic mole at the beginning, which is basically just a line of iron next to a split line of green circuits and gears, and that basically fits everything you need at the very beginning. Then for components that use pipes, like chemical plants and so on, you can just have the lines for blue science right next to it, which also means some extra gears and some steel because you need them for the engines. And basically you can do everything that requires steel and pipes like this. I think the any percent guide also has something extremely similar.
Possible. I did the any percent like last year, so I forgot a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but basically, you want to build the top part early on. Just you don't really need to care about the radars. What else? The extra gears you probably don't need. But yeah, everything else is quite important. Remember to limit your chests. Otherwise, if you get 2,000 splitters, it's probably not a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, you're gonna need way more belts than undergrounds compared to me, because you're gonna be dragging a lot of belts. while in this base I tend to use undergrounds for a lot of things because they are they're more efficient for bots. But you don't really care about that. You would rather have dragging efficiency since you're gonna be building way more by hand.
Yeah.
So basically, after the starting mall, you do the labs, and then you start setting up blue science. You need the steel very early on. I would say half of these lines over here with the basic furnaces, of course, not steel furnaces, is enough to get you the steel for Gotlap and to jumpstart blue science. And as soon as the train research is done, you can just do Gotlap. After that, it's basically a lot more relaxed, and you need to build your blue science, then your bots, and basically from there it's way easier.
Yeah, like 8 hours to launch a rocket, I think not gonna be that hard.
No, that is. I wouldn't be concerned at all about that achievement. That should be quite easy. Biggest problem, especially if you have some sort of plan, the biggest problem is definitely Gotlap. That is kind of difficult to do, especially if you don't use blueprints. However, if you focus completely on it, it's not as bad, I would say. But yeah, basically after you're done the train, you can start setting up the red chips, which means basically grabbing oil. Probably you will need to expand the power at this point because the starting power plant, which is only half of these, you
What is
basically
going
need to
on
double
here?
it. Yeah, don't look too much into that.
What is this?
Yep, that is my 16 gigawatts power plant.
How many pumps do you need? Yes!
Built, there are 167 right now. I think the blueprint, which I don't have here, that's right, because it's in my other save. Whatever. I'll get you the blueprints. I think it's probably 172 pumps, but they're not full. Like they only do 2,250 each.
So why there is the random straight rail? Is it for the measuring something or?
Yeah, so the rail in the middle of everything is to set the blueprint to have a 2x2 grid rather than a 1x1 grid.
Okay.
Because I want to, like, you see this rail that goes all the way around the huge power plant?
Yeah?
Basically, I want to build that with the base bots, and I don't want to bother with it. So in order to be able to connect the base rail to that, I need to have the power plant on a 2x2 grid.
Okay.
That's not. It's like a very minor efficiency thing.
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna care about this.
No. You definitely don't want to care about that. By the way, I do not suggest turning off water entirely, like I do in 100%, because it is incredibly tedious to fit all these pumps like this if you don't have a blueprint. And even like half more sane designs which don't use staging, this blueprint requires a staging of the pumps. Otherwise, you can't build. Like if you place all the landfill, you will not be able to build all the pumps. You need to place first a tiny bit of landfill, then the pumps for that landfill, then the next landfill, and then the next pumps, and then so on. So this blueprint has 6 stages, I think, that needs to be 7, I think, that needs to be built in sequence. Otherwise, it just breaks.
Okay, I guess I'm not gonna do it, but yeah, this is a lot of water that we are pumping. I want to go with something simpler, and this is the only water on the world you have, right?
Yes, that's why it requires these dense pumps. For you, I would suggest just having a somewhat big landfill production, so maybe 1 or 2 stone lines into landfill, and just do a very basic 2x infinitely expandable like that you can expand as much as you want design. So don't bother with the modules like I do. These are really annoying to build. Just do a very basic 2x and just expand it as needed.
Okay.
You probably can find the very basic module somewhere like even Factorio cheat sheet, you can calculate how much you need. But basically, you want to have increments of 4 nuclear reactors, and with the offshores built, basically you want to build this power plant on a lake, so you don't have to route the water, and you can just plant the pumps wherever they are.
Okay, so I want a lot more water for me.
Yes, for sure. Like otherwise, it's just impossible to do. Like actually, it is possible to do. It's impossible to remain sane while doing it. Which is, I mean, it would make for a very interesting video probably. But you know.
Yeah, I want to keep some of my sanity with me.
But yeah, so going back to the basic design, after you have blue science, which is also, I would say, you probably need only half as much as what I do. Same for the red ships, you don't need as many. I would suggest doing bots, because bots will save so much time. Mainly construction bots, logistics bots, just you don't need to care about them. Also because you can't use blue chests, green chests, and purple chests until you launch
Oh
rockets.
yeah, I have to remember that.
Also, you can't build turrets before you launch rockets, and you can't build solar panels until you launch a rocket. So the Solaris achievement, you need to do that after the rocket has launched. But it's very easy. It's don't need to worry about that. So once you have like your 20-ish labs or something like that, you basically need to start focusing on building the next 2 sciences. And in this stage, doing a somewhat bigger mall is probably beneficial, mainly because you want the bots to start doing really a lot of work for you. You really want to start copying everything. You basically want to build as few things by hand as possible as soon as you have bots. So if you go up from there, that's the second mall that I build, which is I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12 lines of iron,
Oh
and
yeah, just a little
1,
more.
2, 3, and 3 lines of copper. Yeah, you do not need to have this much iron and this much copper going into this mole. Probably a quarter of what I do is gonna be way more than enough. However, you need to make sure that you have all the components that you need. And to do that, I would basically suggest doing a very simple thing. Like if you look where I am, where the level 2 assembler, sorry, the assembly machine that does level 2 assemblers is, this is basically the design that I would go for if I were to build it by hand. Which means on one side, one full line of iron, and one line of gears and green chips. On the other side, one line of pipes and gears, and one line of steel and bricks. Bricks only because it's easy to do refineries, furnace, level 2 furnaces, and stuff like that. If you prefer to build a dedicated production for these things, like for example for your furnaces or for, I don't know, whatever else you might want, it's fine. Just remember that furnaces eat a ton of steel and a ton of bricks.
Okay, and how much they limit the chest for the steel furnaces? Because I need a lot of furnaces, but at the same time they are costly to make.
Yeah, in this world, I think I have 3 steel furnaces production, and I have an overall limit of 600. But that is like probably 3 or 4 more times that what you need. So I would say as long as your bots are able to build 2 or 3 lines, which means 24 times 3 is 96. I would say 100 or 150 furnaces are probably enough.
I think I unpaused the game. Did I?
It's fine as long as you like.
Okay,
We
I'm gonna pause.
can, if you prefer, we can unpause it.
No. Just keep it paused.
So here, where you see the repair packs, there used to be pump jacks. I just turned them into repair packs because it's annoying to see the notification that stuff needs repairing, mainly when the trains honk into each other.
What?
Yeah, sometimes that happens. It's only at the beginning, but it's mildly annoying. It's fixed in the current world record things because they use straight rails to build trains and not curved rails like I do. But yeah, basically here what you want to do is a basic mole that does more of the things that you did in your first mole and a few more things. Grenades are very useful to clear trees, so I would build a little bit of them. Here I think. Then probably a basic production of boilers and steam engines to support your power is probably good. At this point you probably also need to expand power and yeah, so just basically just grab and blueprint a bunch of these things over here, and I would suggest doing it with coal. If you have like you probably can find a coal mine somewhere and next to a water body and just do things.
To the independent power?
Yeah. Just make sure that you connect them with the bots network. Roboport production is incredibly important, and you need a ton of them. However, they are extremely expensive, so I suggest basically overbuilding red chips for blue science and just throwing them to the roboports together with whatever leftover steel you have and whatever leftover gears you have from the mall. You cannot have enough roboports, so I would suggest setting the limit to maybe 150 or something like that, which is an insane amount. But basically, you want this production to continuously run throughout the whole game.
Yeah, I see. This chest is not limited, just keeping more and more reports.
Yeah, exactly. And this is not even the full production. There is another one here, I think. Where is it? There we go. And you can see the products finished. Like the top one has 600 products finished, and the bottom one has 600 more product finished. Both chests are not limited, and both of them are not full.
Yeah, so that's a lot of reports.
Yeah, so you probably don't need to bother with the top production. Just the bottom one is enough for you. I would suggest just not bothering with trains at all because they are just extremely annoying to set up fast. Instead, you can just do a similar thing to what I did like over here, which is basically just stamping a giant mining blueprint you probably need to have and connecting it with the red belts. One thing I suggest to do is grabbing the very basic unit, which is this one over here.
Where are you?
Oh yeah, I'm at the starting base, which is this one. Don't bother with the circuit connections, of course, and basically stamp this module here and just copy it a bunch of times.
Okay.
And after you are done with that, make these like a blueprint that is similar to these. Can you see what I'm copying? No, right?
No.
So a blueprint, let's find a mine over here. Example, I'm next to the power plant, on the top of the power plant, near the copper patch. Basically, you want to copy something like this. This is a yellow line, and if you make it like a bunch of times, you don't need to be extremely precise, but you can have something like this.
Should I put the 30 mines per one belt, or I can put less because of the productivity?
Yeah, you can put less. Rushing mining productivity is probably very nice. With mining productivity 3, which is the highest module you will use, you need I think 26 miners per yellow belt.
Okay, but it's still around 30 mines per belt.
Yeah, so very early on you still need to do 30 mines. Another, I would suggest doing the longer blueprints though. So for example, these ones are here. So just do something like this, and you don't need to be extremely precise. This is gonna be like kill all the mixed mining, and this is gonna be roughly 2 lanes, 2 red lines blueprint, something like that. And you can go off based on that.
Okay, should I care about making some balancers or just connect two belts together to a red belt and...
No, just don't care.
Okay.
These belts are gonna be always full because you have 30 miners. The patch will not run out because they're super dense if you use 100% settings, so just don't care. here. And if one or two miners, if one or two belts is slightly less full than it needs to be, whatever.
Okay.
You're not gonna be like that precise on things. If you see on my blueprinted, like on my pre-built blueprinted miners, you see that I basically don't have balancers.
Yeah, that's true.
I have very basic things, and if I were to redo them, I would make them even less balanced. See, like these four yellow splitters, I would just remove them and have every single line the proper amount of mining drills.
Okay, and for mining, you use the yellow belts, but for the output, this is all the red belt, right?
Yeah, all the red.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would suggest is just going full red belt everywhere. Don't bother with the yellow belt. It is more expensive, but you see what I have here? It is production of yellow belts. Of red belts with about 2 lines of iron. So 2 yellow belts of iron going into it. This is an insane amount of red belts, and you probably want more than this. So I would say if you do 2 yellow belts of iron into red belts, you are gonna be set for the whole game. Maybe I would do 2 iron lines into red belts and 1 iron line into underground red belts, so red undergrounds. You can see that this assembler over here has finished about 20,000 red belts, so that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And of course I have more on top here. This has finished 3,000. Then I have, if you check over here, I have like way more. This stuff is for the red mole. Sorry, it's for the outpost mole, so it's insane how much things this thing needs to build.
Yeah, the full undergrounds production.
Yeah, so see these undergrounds about 5,000 times 8, so about 40,000 undergrounds are built here. About 6,000 red undergrounds as well, and yeah, so it's a lot. But until you reach the 2 lines of iron into red belts and 1 line of iron into red undergrounds is probably gonna be enough. And from that point, you just build everything out of red belts, except maybe. If you are copying something from the starting base, like a smelter line or whatever, you can leave the yellow belts if there are some there. But if you need to build it, just use red belts because it's easier to manage.
Okay, and should I upgrade anything in the mall or anything to the...
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to say that. Right after you have built blue science and you have some bots, you can basically double your starting mall by upgrading everything to steel furnaces.
Okay.
And I could say that what you see here, so 2 steel lines, half a brick line with some stone, 2 iron lines and 1 copper line is a lot more than you need. So maybe you can skip the second mall and just focus on having basically this stuff over here. So I will delete the parts that I'm talking about. So this stuff over here, the ones that I deleted.
Yeah.
So just focus on having stuff like that. And if you have these 4 lines, how many are these? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 iron and 1 copper. These 4 red belts of stuff going into the mall and starting research. You're probably gonna be set for quite a while. Definitely until you start the green circuits production. After that, you might need to do a bigger mall.
Okay, should I care about buffering those resources, the plates still?
No, I don't think so. I do that because very early on, like it's very precise the amount that I need and it's all calculated and whatever. I don't think you bother with it. You can't craft anyways, so you don't really need to have buffers for anything except the finished products. Yeah, so after that, After you are done with the science, with the blue science and the roboport production and the bot production, you can start doing red belts, basically, just a ton of red belt. It's very nice to have some sort of power armor, but it's really annoying to set up, so I would just skip it, because you need blue circuits and a bunch of stuff. Probably if you need to get somewhere fast, I would use a car, since it's very cheap once you have trains, because you have all the intermediates, and the research is almost instant. It's like 200 green and red, so it's nothing, maybe even less.
Okay.
And you can worry about the bigger power armor, so the level 2 power armor for the green circuit expansion. At that point, it's probably worth doing it with, I would say, 6 exoskeletons or something like that. Usually, you can see here the power armor mall what I do. It's like 2 roboports level 2 personal roboports. I mean, the big power armor, some basic laser defense, but you can skip that if you have combat bots, because they are super strong versus basic biters. Then I have a couple of batteries, 2 reactors, and 6 legs. You can do like 5 legs and more roboports if you want to build more, if you want to build faster, but it's really what you prefer. Nephrums and Anti do 5 legs and 2 roboports. I do 1 roboport and 6 legs. It's roughly the same. It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
But that's for later. So after you are done with your red belt production, which is basically this stuff over here, you need to focus on doing purple and yellow science. And I would just do 2 dedicated builds that are quite basic. So something like what you see here, maybe scale down even. I would not bother with this messed up setup here, which is my heavy yellow science production and purple science production and whatnot, because it's just not worth it. It takes a ton of time to set up, and you really don't need that much research if you don't plan on finishing this in like 5 or 6 hours. If your plan is to if your plan is to just finish this, probably this much purple is way more than you need. I would say cut this in half, and that's the purple you need. It will take a long time to research everything, but not as much as it will take to do the red circuits. However, you can calculate yourself how much things you need. You say, okay, I think I want to finish by the 15th hour mark, maybe something like that, with the green chips. So you can just grab all the research that you need, that are the numbers that I sent you the other day, and say, okay, I need purple science needs to be this science per minute. Blue science needs to be this science per minute, and so on. And you can build whatever you need. Probably, so for example, for purple science, let's say you want to finish in 10 hours. So you will start purple science probably at the 3-hour mark, something like that. So it's 12 hours of purple science. So 12 times 60, and you need about 25,000 science. You need 35 science per minute.
Okay, I think I will just calculate a lot of stuff in Fly. Just gonna check the production, see how much I made in the last minute, 10 minutes, and just calculate how much more do I need to make all the research.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it in a second, but I will set the game speed to something very low, like 0.3. Okay. Yeah, so six purple machines, these level 2 ones, give you 37 science per second, and it's an extremely small production. So if you want to research a bit faster, you can do more. I would suggest doing a bit more, just because you want to research the silo kinda soon and launch the rocket early, because that unlocks a bunch of nice things like bots, logistic bots, basically.
Okay, and what do I need logistic bots for?
It's very nice to have a building train for the green chips that is fed completely by logistic bots.
Okay, but are I'm going to build a supply train for the outposting, or I'm just gonna go full with the bots?
I mean, that's up to you. If you do everything by hand, it's fine to do only outposting. But if you do that, you probably need to double your robopor production, and you need to really be careful about your bot queue, because it's very easy for bots to take like forever to go somewhere. At that point, I would suggest launching like 1 or 2 extra rockets, because it will not be that expensive, only to do like bot speed, because that's the thing that you will probably need the most. If you want to do bot speed with only 6 rockets, you can do that. However, you need to make sure that your labs have level 3 modules. So I would suggest doing only for the labs something like this later on, once you have all your science set up.
Okay.
Because after you have all your science set up, I would say you need to start doing modules. On of level 1 modules, some level 3 modules probably for prod 3 modules, and basically prod ones for copper wire and speed ones for the beacons. So what you probably want to do is to have like you don't need to have the labs like I do with the sushi belt, because it's really annoying to set up. But even just building on these basic labs that you did at the beginning, and doing what the any percent does, so you start building a bunch of beacons in between them, that's probably worth doing. And upgrading a bunch of these modules to level 3s is also worth as well. At some point you need to do some military science. You need about 30,000 military science to finish the run, but whatever, I mean, it's not that important. Actually no, I think you need to do it to finish the rocket silo, right?
I don't think so. No, you don't need them.
Oh no, yeah, that's right, of course you don't need military science. What am I talking about?
I mean, a few years ago you need them.
Yeah. No, but yeah, yes, of course, you do want it for the power armor Mark II and for the combat bots, because those 2 things are gonna be your 2 main weapons against biters. Because once you start going further out with the outposts, you need to start killing some biters.
Okay, but are biters a big problem because they will be on the
Not at all.
0 evolution and don't have the
You
pollution?
keep them at 0 evolution, you keep the pollution from spreading, so unless you annoy them, they will not bother you. If you go into map mode and you press the pollution thing, you will see that the pollution is entirely contained in the chunk that it's generated.
Okay.
So you will not annoy biters unless you build right next to them, or you burn a forest where they are. And to do the biter attack achievement, you can just burn a forest where they live. So for example, from where you are, if you go left, there is a biter base inside a forest. This is probably enough to give you the It Stinks achievement.
Okay, and when I get... So I'm just gonna burning the forest, waiting for the achievement and killing the biters before they gonna attack me?
No, just, you're against level 1 biters with the power armor Mark II, you are basically invulnerable, even without shields.
Okay.
You only need to watch out a little bit for the worms, but you can just pass by, burn the forest, and leave, and the achievement will trigger. If it doesn't trigger, just don't care, go to the next forest and try again.
Okay, but when I trigger those biters, they're gonna go for the closest miners or...
No, they will go to you because you triggered them with the flamethrower. However, since you will probably be far gone, they will just ignore you. So they will be just kind of lost.
Okay.
However, if for any reason they go to the nearest base, they will not do much damage. And even if they destroy half an outpost, which is probably like an insane amount, if you have it connected to the main base, the bots will just rebuild it. And you just spam like 10 defender capsules and everything is dead. So a base of this size, probably 5 defender capsules are enough to kill everything in a matter of seconds.
Okay, so they seems very effective for the 1-tier biters.
Because the biters basically don't have evolution, and you have max damage and max rate of fire on defender capsules. So before you fight biters, you want to have those researches. So weapon shooting speed and projectile physical projectile damage almost maxed. Of course, not the infinite ones, but if you have them at level 4 or 5, biters don't stand a chance.
Okay. And do you have a production for those capsules somewhere?
Yeah, it's a very small production. I think it's entirely fed by I think it's here. Yeah, there we go. It's entirely fed by logistic bots. So I do this after the silo.
Okay.
And you can probably do the same thing. They don't need to be. It doesn't need to be a production. This thing finished 500 in a matter of a couple of hours. I've used. I don't know where my corpse is, so I don't really know how much I used. But basically, you want to by the end of the run, you want to have at least 100 on you, so you can do the achievement of the followers, which is the only achievement needed. Sorry, it's the only achievement that strictly needs white science.
Okay. I'm looking at the achievements to see if there is anything hard to do.
Okay, so getting on track at pro is probably the hardest one. The hardest one.
The
You're doing
golem.
quite. What? Sorry.
The golem achievement.
Oh yeah. Just grab 4 level 2 shields. There is also production here.
Yes, there it is.
Here, there we go. Just grab 4 level 2 shields, place them in your armor, and ask a train to run you over. You will survive the first hit if the train is small enough. Like I did it here, for example. See this train?
Yeah.
I probably stand. You can see my corpse. I asked it to go to this station, and it started from like here, this station, the personal stop, the empty line. And the first hit I survive, and it triggers golem. And then I just stand there and let it kill me, so it triggers watch your step. So it's a very easy way to get those 2 achievements.
Okay.
But you can do that at the very end of the run. You don't need to worry about it. Like a bunch of things you can worry. Yeah, you don't really need to worry about it, and you can do it. Like once you have about 10 or even 15 millions of green circuits produced, and stop worrying about green circuits production and start worrying about wrapping up all the other achievements. The only one that you need to start earlier is probably Solaris, because it requires about an hour to do. But you basically need only this. It needs to be its own network. Just spam a bit of radars and about a bit of solar panels. I have more than enough. This is about 100 solar panels and whatever, how many radars I need to drain the power. You just let it run for like an hour and 20, something like that.
And I have to wait until I launch the rocket to build it.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to do this after the rocket. Yeah, you need to set up an extremely simple solar panel production. I think all these things that you need to set up, these very, very, very small productions, you can just ask your logistic bots to do that.
Okay.
So just set up very basic things like one requester chest, one assembler, one provider chest. You can shift click. You can set the recipe, shift click the recipe into the requester chest, so all the items get requested, and you just set a very small limit, probably with circuit network, I would say, so you don't overproduce, like 5 solar panels, and then you set the blueprint and it's done. The same thing can be done for the flamethrower, the tank, some shields. Actually, I do this because I want to be extremely efficient. If you don't really care too much about time, and since you're doing this without blueprints, that is the case, because you cannot like you don't have to rush things as much as I do. You can just handcraft everything of all of these things. So just grab a bunch of basic resources, and after you've launched the rocket, you can craft 1 tank, 4 shields, maybe even your power armor, your reactors, your legs. What else do you need? I would suggest setting up the defender capsule production, because you will need quite a few of them. Yeah, the fuel. You need the flamethrower fuel production, which is over here, but it's just basically a bunch of steel and crude oil. It's very easy to do. You don't need that much. 100 will last you for the whole Pyromaniac achievement. Make sure you choose a map that is not so deserty as this one. I remember having a ton of problems in doing Pyromaniac in this map.
Okay, I will definitely have more water, more trees.
Yeah. One thing to note. If you have only 1 or 2 yellow chests, you want to have only 1 or 2 yellow chests, and you want to feed them like these into a power pulse production, so that all the wood that the bots harvest will go in there and it will be turned into power poles. So you don't bother with medium poles because they're too expensive. Just use small poles for everything.
Okay, yeah, it works the same in the any percent. I remember that.
Yeah, the only difference here is that since you can't handcraft, it's really annoying to keep feeding wood to the wooden pole production. So you want it automated basically, and the only way to automate it is to have extremely few yellow chests and have them feed into the power pole production like this.
Okay, I'm looking at the achievements and I'm wondering if, for example, the red circuits or blue circuit production will be a problem.
No, these are extremely easy achievements. Especially the red circuit one is unbelievably easy. And remember that you want to do probably 1 or 2 module builds before you start going for the green chips. So while after you are set up all your science, you are waiting for your first rocket, the one with the fish in it. You can start setting up a module production. And what I suggest for the module production is to find a copper patch, like build 2 or 3 red lines from copper, find a nearby iron, grab 3 or 4 iron, and basically turn everything into circuits. And you need plastic and coal as well, so you can use steel furnaces because you will have the fuel for the plastic anyways. So basically you need a spot where let me see if I can find one that is fairly yeah, so for example if we go over here, there are a ton of these spots, by the way. If we go over here, you can see that we have 1 iron, 1 copper right next to each other. Then very close, there is an oil and a coal. Basically, you want to build your module building thing in a spot something like this. So you have everything. You do only basic oil processing. You don't care about efficiency. The oil, you will have more than enough oil for everything. Even for your main base, I suggest doing basic oil processing if you need plastic, and very few advanced oil processing, only to do basically rocket fuel when you need it, and the lube for the bots and the red engines basically.
Okay.
Because it's just painful to set up the advanced oil processing. Just think about what any percent does, and it's basically the same. Here in 100%, I want to be more efficient, so I actually use advanced oil processing, but you don't need to worry about it. You have basically all the oil in the world. Consider that 3 or 4 pump jacks are usually enough, especially if you grab them from the center of a patch, to give you like 1,000 oil per second or something like that, which is an insane amount.
Okay, so I need like 5 pump jacks to have a full line of the oil.
Just check how much oil it does, but roughly it is 5. The very first one, probably you need 10 because the density is not that high. So for example, this one is the first one. You can see that they have 120, 80, 118, 97, and this has been going for like 4 hours. So it's already reduced. But you also have a bit of productivity. So I would say just grab 10, but if your patch has only 5, it's fine. Doesn't matter. So before starting outposting, which means after you are done all your science, and you're waiting for your first rocket, you want to start the design of your module build. So it's basically what I said earlier. It's probably 3 or 4 red lines of copper, a couple of red lines of iron, and very few pump jacks and very few coal miners, and you just turn everything into modules. Mainly you need prod 3s, prod 1s, and the speed 1s, and that's it. After you have at least one of those set up, I would start building the mole for the green chips thing.
Sorry about the modules. I need prod 3, speed 3, and what?
No, speed 1s.
Speed
3s
okay.
are way too expensive. Prod 1s, speed 1s, and prod 3s. Basically, you want to put the prod 3s into the level 3 assemblers for the green chips, and the prod ones into the level 3 assemblers for wire. Everything is surrounded by probably 8 beacons, I would say, and you just do that. So if I were to build a very basic green chips thing
There is
here.
one. Oh, pink is working, at least
It's
for me.
working now. Yeah, so this is extremely difficult to build by hand. This is basically a green chips expansion. If you want to look at these, for example, this is a fully working outpost. But you see that it's impossible to build this by hand. It's way too complicated. I also use like prod modules into the furnaces, and it's just not worth doing unless you are trying to min-max extremely one patch. So what I would do is overbuild completely a patch. So just grab where was the line that I did earlier? Just grab something like this and basically do.
Where are you?
I'm doing this on call, but so just do something like this. This is 200 miners. This is probably about four red belts. You connect them. You probably will use only red belts, and this will be your copper probably. Right next to this, you want to do a very basic furnace production, which means where the hell are they? Oh, there we go. One furnace, which basically means just doing something like this. Come on, you build 24 furnaces, and you are done. Probably I would do something like this. No, these are like these, and probably I would do something like this. Then you snap to grid relative, and you can just copy paste it until you have 24 per side. And this is basically a red line of furnaces.
Okay, and the same goes for the iron.
Yeah, exactly. So you do the copper like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the iron from the other side. After you are done this, you want to do the beacon build for the green chips. This is just an example. I remember that in the run in the 100% multiplayer, I did a slightly different design with the output on two sides of the copper patch. I remember, and basically I had the iron smelting, so it was something like this. So output on both sides and iron smelting like this, and I had these builds with the level 3 assemblers and the beacons on both sides. So I think there is a way to have, yeah, like these. I think I did something like this. It was not a perfect ratio, but it was good enough. And here I think I started using basically only stack inserters, and I had level 1s and level 3s, and something like this. So it was something like this, I remember. And the ratio should be fairly okay, like this, I think. Let me grab an interface. Hey, yeah, I need to unpause it. Okay. So yeah, I roughly calculated it that this was fine, I think. No, actually half of it is fine. Yeah, so okay, sorry. So it was like this.
I have 5 EPSs.
Yeah, let's pause. There we go.
Catching up. Now it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so it was something like this, and I don't exactly remember, but this was I think the iron. Then yeah, maybe it was I don't know. It was something like this. Anyways, but as you can see, it's kinda easy to do. I'm sure that if you actually design something, it's you can find something that is stylable and a lot simpler to build than this monstrosity that I did.
Yeah.
But this is the very basic idea. And at the end, you want to have do basically something like is with probably iron chests are fine as well. By the way, at this point you probably have a production of substations and a production of big electric bolts. So if you prefer, you can use substations. And once these chests are full, you need to start building a little bit of artillery, and you just nuke them, basically.
Okay, and the boss will simply rebuild the chests.
Exactly. So if everything is connected to the main network, it will take a long time to build, but everything is quite easy. You just need to start doing these outposts and do them over and over and over and over and over again. And these outposts like these is fairly simple to do. It doesn't take too many resources. It doesn't take too much time also. And basically you need only a production of inserters that you already have, but on top of what you had earlier, you need electric furnaces, level 3 assemblers, and speed ones, prod 1s and prod 3s.
Okay, and how many belts of input do I need for it? Like how many iron, copper?
I need to unpause a little bit. Okay, let's set the game speed to like something like 0, 1. There we go.
I have shortcuts for most of the comments.
So one of these modules. So for example, if you take a look at the middle one and press Alt X and it shows rate calculator. It basically needs because those beacons are not powered, of course. That's why it isn't working. It's almost a ratio of 1 to 1, and it needs 4 copper per second and 3.5 iron per second. So if you multiply this by 4, basically one yellow belt feeds 4 of these modules. And for the iron, it's probably... So sorry, no. One copper belt roughly is enough to feed these 3. So if you build 6, you can use 1 red belt of copper, and you need 25 iron per second to build to feed 6. So basically you need 4 copper lines to 3 iron lines. That's roughly the ratio.
Okay.
But keep in mind that these you want to just build them as fast as possible. Don't need to care if the mines don't fit on all the patch. You don't need to care if one iron line is not perfectly full or whatever. It just doesn't matter. If it's better to build one more of these outposts than to make sure that every single machine is perfectly ratioed and whatnot.
Yeah, like if something will be messed up, I can just build more and it will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that I would say to pay very close attention is the first one, because you want to make sure that the first one, which is after that you're just gonna copy the whole outpost and print it again. That's why you want to have your miners extremely close to the furnaces, so you can just stamp it on top of copper patches and just stamp an iron thing, an iron mine close to it. You also can come up with a better design than what I did here in 5 seconds.
Okay, and when I building the green circuit production, should I use some kind of the multiple blueprints, like different blueprint for the smelter, different for the miners, different?
No. But what I would do is design the first outpost, even if it takes you a little bit more time, ratioed properly so that everything works properly. So if you need, 8 lines of iron, 8 lines of copper and 4 lines of iron, you build 8 lines of copper and 6 lines of iron. You build a smelting for that. You build the factory that produces the green chips and the output. And after that, you just copy everything and you start pasting it.
Okay.
Make sure that the bots have built the previous outpost before you start building the newer one, because otherwise the bot queues become insane and nothing works.
Okay, so I look at the top production. So here,
Yes.
everything on the left, the miners plus the production, is a single blueprint. But the thing on the right is another blueprint for the iron, right?
Yeah, so basically I have one whole big blueprint that is attached to the copper mine and has everything up to these red belts. These red belts levels are things that I build myself. And the second blueprint is the iron mine.
Okay.
And then I connect the iron mine myself to the big outpost, and I connect the Roboport network and the power, and that's it. And I suggest you do something similar. So as you can see, these iron lines are not super full, and it's fine. This probably was quite a shitty iron mine, and in fact you can see that there are a lot of miners missing.
Yeah.
But I would rather build one more outpost than trying to make something work more efficient. So some other times things are way better. Like this one, for example, is here there is only one iron line that is quite empty. In this top one, everything is completely full. For example, this is an outpost that probably works at 100%.
Okay, that's
You
good.
actually want to overbuild slightly the miners so that but you also don't need to bother too much. It's fine if a few machines don't work too well. Keep in mind that you're gonna do probably since this production is not as big as mine, you're probably gonna do about 20 of these outposts, I would say, in the course of I don't know, 6-7 hours, something like that.
So after launching the rocket, I basically just running around the map and placing more of those outposts.
Yeah, basically. So actually, after launching the first rocket, which is the one with the fish, I would do a couple of modules production because you will need a ton of modules. Place the first level 3 modules into the labs, and of course you need to hand build. It's not really hand building, but you need to have level 3 modules into the rocket silo, of course, because it's just it's not usable otherwise. Then you need to start your uranium production because you will need to jump into nuclear because it is possible to keep spamming these basic plants over here, but you will need so many of them that it's just it just becomes really annoying. I mean, one of these outposts is not exactly cheap on power. You have a lot of beacon machines, a lot of electric furnaces, and things like that. So my suggestion is just start nuclear power. It takes more time to set up early on, but you still need to set up like a mole for other things. So for example, you need beacons, and those things mostly use the same components as the nuclear plants.
Okay, so in the long term, it's good investment going to nuclear.
Yeah, exactly.
And should I worry about the Covarex process or just not?
Okay, so if you have enough time to set up one Covarex machine, a single one with the level 1 prod modules is enough to feed 32 nuclear reactors. I usually don't bother with Covarex. I just place level 3 modules into the fuel cell machine right here. This is my whole uranium production. I just stash the bad uranium and turn every single piece of good uranium into fuel cell. And this very basic production, I mean, it's 1.5 lines of uranium. It's not that small, but still, it's not huge. Is enough to feed my whole, actually, sorry, 4 out of 5 of these nuclear plants. The 5th one runs only on the things that are left over on the belt.
Okay, so seems like I don't need to worry about the Covarex.
Since you are probably gonna go much longer than me, I would
I just
set
need
up,
a bit bigger buffer.
It's annoying though to have a bigger buffer. I would probably set up one Covarex machine.
Okay.
And with one Covarex, I mean, it's just gonna be enough for everything. But then again, you probably don't need it. You can just build a little bit for the uranium production if you really need it, and it's super cheap. I don't know. I wouldn't. It's either way, just whatever is faster. You don't need Covarex. I would say if you happen to have the research ready, it's a really big research. It's 1,500 purple science. That's why we don't do it in this run. If you happen to have the research, then sure, go for it. If not, just don't bother, I would say.
Okay. And
You
how
can always
expensive is
double
the
your,
nuclear? Okay, it's actually
So-
don't need too much science to make the nuclear itself.
No. The nuclear plant is just a bunch of blue science. It's very cheap, actually.
Yeah.
It's like 1,500 blue science, so it's perfectly reasonable to have it done while the rocket builds. Basically, after after the first module build, you want to build the mole for the green circuit expansion. And that mole needs stuff for the nuclear plant. And that means a ton of steel and a ton of copper, basically. Which, incidentally, it is also useful to do beacons. So I would do that basically in the same build, because they almost require the same resources. Because beacons only need a few green chips and a few wires, which are really cheap. So I would just do a build like what you see here. Of course, not this spaghetti mess, but
Yeah.
something more reasonable to do by hand. But basically is a bunch of gears with prod modules. Always prod modules the gears you can. A bunch of gears with prod modules, a bunch of pipes, and a ton of copper. They go into one assembler of you can just use level 1 assemblers of what are these called? Turbines, heat pipes, and heat exchangers. And you can limit these quite a lot. Like you can figure out the ratio properly, but I don't have a limit on the chest only because everything is on the combinator. But basically, if you do like 1,000 engines, 1,000 pipes, and maybe I don't know, like 400, 500 heat exchangers, they will be enough for the whole run.
Okay.
The only problem with these components is that they are extremely expensive, so they need time to build. Not because of assembler time, but because of the you need to feed the resources, and like it's insane how much resources this
Yeah, I
this
look
thing
at the
use.
copper prices of everything, and yeah,
Yeah,
that's huge.
it's absurd. So what I would do right after the first module build is grab copper and an iron, turn almost all the iron into steel, and just with the other so for example, I would say if you have a 5 liners iron, I would do like 2, maybe even 2.5 lines into steel, then a little bit into straight iron for pipes and green chips, and the rest for gears and whatever else you need, like sticks and whatnot. And I would do a production of green chips, red chips, and bricks for all the nuclear components, the nuclear reactors themselves, which are insanely expensive. They require 500 each of copper, steel, concrete, and advanced circuits. So these things are stupid expensive, but you can set the limit on like having 10 of them ready. And the biggest problem is actually feeding the resources to them. So building buffers for the components is probably smart here.
Yeah, definitely for the copper.
Yeah, and I would do actually though if you use a stack inserters and you have like one full copper line going into it constantly, you probably don't need that much of a buffer. Just need to make sure that you have also one steel line going into it time, which is ridiculously expensive. So I would probably set for like half a steel line, half copper, and whatever. These builds are quite expensive though.
Okay, and about the fuel, should I just go with the coal or should I switch to the solid fuel at some point?
No. Since you have water everywhere on the map, you can just find a coal patch next to water. Like think about this coal patch and this water.
Yeah.
You build like full miners on this coal patch, like 5 lanes, I don't know, 6 lanes of copper. Sorry, of coal, and you just do like 5 or 6 of these big power plants. Actually, not the big ones. Sorry, of these smaller ones. One yellow line of coal feeds 34 boilers. So you basically just do that ratio, and whenever you need power, you find the closest coal patch that also happens to be close to water, and you just build it there.
Okay.
So since the nuclear reactor build is quite expensive, you can skip it if you replace it with a regular power build. With a regular power build, but you will need to do that much more often. And in my opinion, it becomes annoying. However, it's more up to what you prefer. Designing a nuclear power takes time, so it's not exactly super simple. In the multiplayer 100% run that I did, I think I did coal power up to the rocket, and then I switched to nuclear power. But the rocket was like 4 or 5 hours in, so it's like you don't need to rush the rocket that much because it's not that critical. Like it's also kind of easy to do that in 8 hours if you have somewhat of a plan. Definitely
When
easier
I
than
did the
Gotha.
any percent, I think it took me like 4.5 hours to do it without the lazy bastards.
Okay. Lazy Bastard does not add too much. I would say probably adds 1 hour at most. So I would say that you can probably do it in like 5 hours or something like that. However, yeah, the fact that you don't use blueprints and you are alone, I think you will not have any problems to do it in 8 hours.
Okay, I will definitely practice some the beginning because the later
Mhm.
is just gonna take more time and that's all. But definitely the getting on track like a pro is the problem,
That
and
is
the
probably
rocket.
the biggest issue. So of the things that I didn't talk about much are the science designs for yellow and purple science. I would do exactly what any percent does there.
Okay.
And that's it, basically. And same thing for the rocket. Maybe even scale down because you don't need that much. However, you need it continuously. So using things only from buffers is a no-go. You need to have a dedicated production line. However, grabbing the nearest patch and doing a production does not take that much time with bots.
Okay.
So just get prepared to especially for iron and copper, just doing them over and over and over and over again. So having a blueprint of a basic smelting line for copper that you also use for iron, and one for steel is a good choice. Especially one that you can place next to another. So you want them to be tileable, like something, for example, these steel line over here and like this iron line over here. It's just the basic speedrunning design, of course.
Yeah.
If you see that you are short on belts, on red belts at some point, you need to immediately increase the red belt production, and that means going to the nearest iron patch and turning at least 2 or 3 iron lines straight into red belts and the red undergrounds, and it will last you for quite a while.
Yeah, so in 100% I just going big, just copy the whole production and paste it next to a patch and turn it into bells.
Exactly. It's a lot less about the precise ratio and exact builds, and more on like scaling things like to a huge degree. Don't need that much science because 8 hours is a lot of time to do all the science, let alone launch a rocket. So if you think you're gonna take like 10 hours to do the whole run, probably will take a bit more, I would say. You can just figure out your exact productions from there. But however, for the starting base, which is these and these science production, so red, blue, green, I would say half of what is here is enough. It's definitely enough, actually, and 20 labs.
Okay. And about the productivity modules in the labs, I should put them as soon as I research them, make the production for them, rush them.
So you definitely want to have level 1 modules as before you start researching stuff with the yellow and purple science. But I mean, level 1 modules are extremely useful, so I would level 1 prod modules, of course. I would do almost a dedicated build somewhat early on. Maybe just overbuild purple science when you do it on the modules so that you can use modules also for building.
Okay.
Maybe have like you see what I have here.
Yes.
It is a quite big, like this is a huge production of modules, of course. So you don't need it that big. But only a tiny bit of these things go into purple science. I think it's first 4 modules, and that's it. Everything else gets turned either into level 3 assemblers, like these 2 prod modules over here, or into higher level modules, this stuff over here, or it just goes into a chest and becomes prod modules. I also have another module production that is just level 1s here, that is purely for building, but you do not need to have such a big production of modules.
I mean, at some point I will need to have the production for the outpost.
Yeah, of course, but that is probably after the rocket. At that point, you're just gonna, like, I would say probably 1 or 2 of those builds completely dedicated to modules are a good idea.
Okay.
And you need to figure out the ratio of level 1 modules to level 2 modules and build them accordingly. But yeah, so actually, when you build your roboports, if you have a little bit of leftover red chips, which is, I mean, unless you build them specifically for it, you will not have leftover red chips because roboports suck an insane amount of red chips. Build a smallish dedicated prod modules production, and you can just throw the first prod modules that you have into gears and into green chips around the base so that you increase the production. As a general rule, always build gears and green chips with the prod modules in them. The other things that you want to put prod modules are labs, 100% blue chips. It's extremely important to have prod modules into the blue chips. Then high level science, so purple science and yellow science, and that's it. Level 3 modules instead you want to have in the labs before starting to research with white science. So at that point you need to switch all your labs to level 3 modules, but that is after the first rocket, of course. So you have a lot of time, you have the dedicated prod modules production. And then if you don't use Covarex, and only if you don't use Covarex in the nuclear fuel.
Okay, just for the fuel.
If you don't use Covarex. If you use Covarex, then it's a waste to have level 3s here. Prod 1s are more than enough. However, yeah, thinking back, maybe nuclear is a bit too much investment. Not really building the nuclear build itself, but building the components for it. Because like to do them in a reasonable time, it's probably at least like 5 or 6 lines of iron and 4 lines of copper, which is a fairly big build.
Yeah, so like the designing of everything will take me like, I don't know, 1 hour, but building the production to make this will take me like 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, you can copy paste most of the things. Like at that point, you have red chips production that you can copy paste. You have green chips that you can copy paste, and so on. But it's still a really big production. You do need to build it for beacons, at least a decentish production of beacons. You need to figure out how many beacons you need for your outpost. But if you build something like this is a lot of beacons because you probably need, it's gonna be something like this for your outpost. So every outpost is, 50 beacons over here.
Yeah.
Also, you might want to use beacons for the furnaces, but if you use beacons for the furnaces, then you will for sure need nuclear power, because otherwise you're not going to be able to sustain. However, you will be able to build a lot less furnaces, and overall it's probably cheaper, but I don't know.
I think it will be easier without the beacons in the furnaces.
Yeah, probably, but these furnaces require a ton of resources. It's a bunch of steel, red chips, and bricks. So basically, exactly the same resources that go into the nuclear power build. So with that build, so when you do the after having done the modules build, so after the first rocket, you do the modules build, the high level module build, and then you go, you find a bunch of other patches, and you need to do the components that go into your outpost, which is not steel furnaces, electric furnaces and beacons, and that is a bunch of steel, a bunch of bricks, and a bunch of copper, basically, and red chips. Sorry, and that is exactly the same resources that you need for the rocket build, the nuclear build. So you just need to scale it bigger. So at that point, point, you might even be able to just copy paste the exact same build and just change the ratio a little bit so that the last output is not the beacons and furnaces, but heat pipes, turbines, nuclear reactors, and heat exchangers. So it probably, since you already need to build something like that, it's not too much extra work. It is a bit of extra work though. So I don't know. I'm still undecided on whether nuclear would be worth for your case or not.
Okay, so definitely the key is to reuse as much as I can in the
Yeah,
blueprints.
it's just overwork the bots as much as possible. They are underpaid workers. Actually, they are probably slaves, and they do their job quite well. Just make sure that you don't give them room to breathe. But if you overwork them too much, they complain because the bot queues become insane, and you won't be able to do anything.
Yeah, I think
Reasonable.
the bot queue will be bigger problem for me since I don't know if I'm gonna go with the building trains.
Yeah, the first outpost will probably not be too much of a problem because they're fairly close. But take a look at my base. Imagine if this was a one huge Roboport network. So, for example, if the bots need to go from here, first of all, this is like 2,000 tiles, so it takes forever. And if there are no Roboports in the middle, so here, for example,
They will get stuck.
yeah, they get stuck. So you need to always make sure that there is not full coverage, of course. If they reroute a bit, it's fine, but you need to make sure that they don't get completely stuck. Be careful about huge lakes, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, besides that, I think without blueprint, not having a building train is faster up to a certain point. So if you are building extremely far outposts, then a building train becomes necessary, because if you have the bots travel like 5,000 tiles, it just becomes not reasonable.
I
However,
wonder
I do
if I can
suggest,
make something between a building train and something just to transfer the stuff to make it closer for the boats.
you can use something like this, which is a refill train that has only the things that you need to use for building. By the way, as a general plan for building the green circuit outposts, I want to have a request for roboports, big electric poles, basically everything that is in the train, in this train over here. You want to have a request in your logistics spots for roboports, not rails if you don't use train, but a bunch of red belts, storage chests, substations, and so on. All these things that because you want to always build the skeleton. So what I would do if I were to design an outpost like this is copy the outpost and make a copy of the blueprint. From the copy of the blueprint, I would delete everything that is not poles, roboports, and basically that's it. Maybe a few miners to see how to place the blueprint. So that you can have your personal your personal construction bots build the skeleton and then connect it to the main network, so that the base bots don't take 3,000 hours to
Just to start building the stuff.
yeah, to start building, because if you stamp a giant blueprint like this, the bots will build a tiny bit, and the robots that are in that space, then they will realize, oh, there is more to build, and then they will move on to the next, and so on. And that takes so much bot queue time that is just insane, because these blueprints are very big. Like if you do a blueprint like this is probably like 5,000 entities, 4,000 entities, something like that. And it takes quite a bit of time to go through the bot queue for all of these. So you definitely want to make sure that you have all the components ready, first of all, and that every single one of the blueprinted entity is in the blueprint, is in Roboport range. That's why you want to have a skeleton blueprint that basically has only the bot queues and whatnot.
Okay,
What am I
and
saying? Not
are
the bot
there...
queues, the power poles, roboports, and things like that. and that's it.
Are there any places where I should put more raw ports than just for the coverage?
If you have a construction train, definitely next to the yellow chests of the construction train. If you don't, then no.
Okay.
Mainly next to the mines, because there is a higher density of entities over there. But just make sure that don't be skimpy on roboports, basically that. Because bots needs time to recharge, and the more roboports you have, the better it is. You probably have a huge production by now of roboports, so, and you have, I would hope, hundreds buffered, so you can just go nuts with them. And if you see that you are short, where you are doing beacons and electric furnaces, you can do roboports as well. So to reassume everything, what I would do is start with a hand-fed mole that gives me enough resources to build one iron line and half a copper line into a more advanced mole, which is this one over here. Then move on to do the sciences, the red and green science, which is this one over here. And after having built like 20 or so labs, immediately go and do steel and start researching things for Gotlap, which is basically this steel over here. After that, so after steel is done and I have researched Gotlap, I would start working on blue science, and that means grabbing oil, doing red chips production, a bunch more green chips, which probably would mean expanding copper and adding a more iron, probably. And right after blue science is done, I rush bots as fast as possible. I do a somewhat big roboport production and a bunch of bots. I would just have the construction bots unlimited. Just do not such a big production like I have here. Probably less than half of this is fine, but just have it run constantly. You want to always be producing bots. After the bots, I would move on to purple and after the bots, I basically double them all and do red belts. So red belts, red undergrounds, and a bigger mole. You don't need something as big as me, but probably 1 or 2 steel lines, a couple of iron lines, and 1 copper line for the mole. Just for the basic components is enough. And you probably need to double power at this point, or like just great power. After this, it's purple science, military science, and yellow science time, and I want to make sure to start all these builds with the production modules in them. And of course I want to place the production modules in the labs themselves. So when you build this second mold, I think it's worth to do a somewhat small red chips production, but maybe you can use the leftover from roboports as well. Since you don't need probably as many roboports as I do, you probably can use that. So just have these roboports be more limited on steel than on or gears than on red chips, and the leftover red chips you can just throw them into modules and do a bunch of production modules. Production modules are way more important than speed modules.
Okay.
Sorry?
No, I'm just thinking. That's a lot to remember.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, all these builds up to this point, they don't need to be big. Like yellow science, military science, purple science, they can just be like 6 assemblers, 8 assemblers, level 2s with modules in them. It's like they really don't need to be that big. So it's it's a lot to remember, but it's basically at this point it's more like any percent with lazy bastard than actually 100%. But that changes after the purple science and the yellow science, because after purple and yellow you need to start building the rocket components, and that part you can do basically the same as any percent, maybe scale down a little bit, and you need to automate the silo, the silo feeding, I mean, with the rocket fuel, LDS, and rocket control units, and you need to place level 3 modules in the silo, and you need to handcraft them basically. Handcraft means, of course, placing a few assemblers and crafting them into assemblers.
Yeah, about the handcrafting. I should craft the first 100 something item and then unbind the crafting.
Exactly. I will give you a link to my 100% guide. It explains that part in quite some detail, so you can
Okay.
just take a look at that, and it will be extremely clear. It also gives you a list of the items you need to craft at the beginning. So after you have done the rocket build, while the rocket is building the components, you can start working on the green chips expansion. And at that point, you need to do two things basically: module builds, is beacons, electric furnaces, and probably more miners. No, sorry, probably more roboports, I would say. And since they use mostly the same components, you can do them in one single build. You just need a ton of red chips, a ton of steel, and just throw everything together, and probably the output of like, I don't know, 10 lines of ore going into this build is just one level 1 assembler of roboports, one level 1 assembler of beacons, and I would say probably 5 or 6 level 2 assemblers of electric furnaces, just because they take longer to build. So the big module production, you need to figure out the ratio that you want to use in the outpost. So this thing over here, you need to have a basic layout, and then build it to ratio. So if you use, I don't know, like 100 prod 1s, 100 prod 3s, and 300 speed 1s, you need to build a module production that does that ratio. But the module production is kind of easy. It's annoying to build the first time because it is a giant red chip production with a blue chip production, so you need oil as well in that build. But I would do that in a dedicated area. So you find a place with like iron, copper, and oil and coal, and you build it there. After you are done that, you need the outpost components, so roboports, electric furnaces, and beacons. And after you have done that build, you probably have everything that you need. So you probably have the first rocket ready. So you just grab a fish, throw it into the rocket, and start building logistic bots instead of construction bots.
About the satellite, should I build some dedicated production for it? Like
Yeah. You probably at that point need to start building satellites, but it's not that hard to do. You need to do a solar panel production and an accumulator production, and one assembler for each is more than enough.
Okay, but they say I can just place one assembler for each thing and just request the stuff for it.
That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. Just make sure that these buffer chests here for the rocket are actually provider chests and request like very basic things. At this point, like after the first rocket, I would start using logibots quite heavily, because you need to request a few things for yourself. You need to request. You need to have a bunch of small builds. So placing providers chests around your base, like for example at the end of a copper line, at the end of an iron line, at the end of a steel line, and so on, is useful to have a bunch of these components ready, so that you can just request everything that you need in very small quantities and be done with it. You need basically the components for to build a tank, the flamethrower ammo, solar panels that you also need for Solaris, then accumulators for the satellite, then you need to request rocket fuel, blue chips. You probably want blue chips for yourself as well to build the power armor. So I would overbuild the blue chips slightly so you have a buffer. Same thing with LDS, but you can just steal them from the rocket silo and it should be fine as well. And yeah, so at this point, so after you're done the components for the outpost, you can choose to basically double the build and do the nuclear build, or just keep doing power with coal and boilers and stuff. Keep in mind that if you do the power for with coal and steam engines, you probably need a couple of iron lines completely into that production, and you basically need to build a really big power plant for each outpost, because I would not be surprised if each outpost is like a half a gigawatt or something like that. And half a gigawatt basically means about 500 steam turbines. 500 divided by 68, that is 7.3. So that means you basically need 7.5 lines of coal per outpost of power. So if your outposts are half a gigawatt, if they are less, you need a bit less. If they are more, you need more. That basically depends on how many beacons you use and how many electric furnaces with beacons you use. You can see that it becomes very expensive very quickly. That's why I would still consider nuclear. But it's up to you, basically. You can live on coal power, but if you keep using coal power, at the end, probably you will be limited not by the expansion rate of your outpost, but by the expansion rate of your power. Not because you don't have the component, but just because finding suitable locations becomes really annoying, because they are very far.
Yeah, especially with only the bots. Like with the building train, it would be easier, but with the bots, it will be even more harder.
Yeah, so it's like nuclear has it's an extra build that you need to do, so it's of course more expensive and more annoying to build, but it saves you a lot of time in the late game expansion because you can just throw together a basic power plant and expand it indefinitely.
So I definitely going for a long run, so the nuclear seems like a better solution because I have just spent the time building it and then it pay off. With the coal I have to constantly do it.
Yeah, so with nuclear you probably will not have any power problems, and it's probably more
UPS friendly?
Yeah, definitely more UPS friendly than coal power. However, it's you need to do an extra build with a lot of iron and copper going into it, mainly steel and copper actually. So I wouldn't be surprised if you need to do like 7-8 lines of of iron and copper going straight into that build just to keep it fed. However, once you have it set up, it's you will be limited in your outpost expansion by your modules production and your components production. So, but you probably do not have to worry about power. Just need to click the next blueprint once the bot have done. Just make sure that you build the landfill for the next blueprint once the bot have it. The bot have built the previous power plant.
Should I turn any of the green production into making the modules for me?
Sorry?
Should I the first or the second build for the green circuit, should I think about turning it into the modules production?
Yeah, that's what I was saying to do right after the rocket. However, so you can see here that these are my outposts that basically go into modules, and they are somewhat different from the big ones. They are over here. Oh, I was in map mode. At the bottom left, you see them.
Yeah.
And these are basically lower level assemblers that just take a bunch of copper and a bunch of iron. The concept is the same as the previous outpost, but they train back green chips and a bunch of ore. What I would do if I were you to save more time is to just build everything locally. So find also a coal patch like this one and some oil like this one over here. Red chips here as well, and do modules here.
Okay.
So have basically this build. This build over here, this giant module build that is basically this big. You can have it here at this out. And I would do only one of these and way smaller than what I do.
So basically the first module production is me building the blueprint for the green outpost, but I should modify it somehow to make the modules for me.
I would actually not bother. So the first outpost that you do, which is straight up after the rocket, I would not bother doing exactly the design for your outposts, but I would do dedicated production without electric furnaces, only with steel furnaces for modules. Turn all this copper, all these this iron, grab some coal and some oil nearby, and just turn everything into modules. Maybe you do this for 1 or 2 outposts, depending on how much you need. You need to figure that out when you ratio your outpost, and I would suggest doing a basic design of the outpost that you want to do. And after that, you can move on to building the rocket components. Not the rocket components, sorry, the outpost components. So a bigger production of electric furnaces, roboports, and beacons.
I bet I should make some like dedicated production for the components for the outpost. Like, where do you have such production?
So I have this giant mall over here that is basically outpost components. You can see that I have a huge production of steel furnaces. Sorry, electric furnaces, I meant.
Yeah.
Here. And a bunch of belt inserters and whatnot, like here, here, here. There is a bunch of belt and robots. But I have robot production only because I use a train. If you have them connected to the main network, you don't need to worry about this robot production.
Yeah. Do you have somewhere the miners production?
Miners. The miners are all the way up here.
Okay, and you're simply using bots to transfer them?
Yeah, I grab them with logistic bots and throw them into the outpost train.
Okay, about the UPSs, will I have some
sorry, I think you got cut out for a few minutes. For a few seconds there.
About the UPSs, will I have some problem with UPSs or no, or it's hard to measure?
Wait.
Oh.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I think it's me. I got disconnected from the server.
Oh yeah, you got kicked from the game as well.
Okay, what about now? Maybe now it's better.
Yeah, much better, much better. Now
yeah, my internet is just being unstable.
Okay.
So this is why I'm not streaming from time to time. I'm just doing this.
Yeah.
I was asking about the UPSs.
Yeah, so if you see your UPS going down from 60, since it's since you're not gonna submit this run because you're probably gonna do it in multiple sessions, right?
I don't know.
Okay, so
if it's gonna take me like less than 20 hours, I probably do it in a one run. If it's gonna take more, then yeah, I will probably do multiple sessions.
I mean, with a very solid plan, 20 hours is fairly reasonable. I think even 15 if you're kind of fast.
Yeah, I'm not kind of fast.
Okay. Yeah, I would say, 20 hours sounds reasonable, honestly. You need to have a plan for everything, of course.
Yeah.
But 20 hours does not sound unreasonable at all. If you see the UPS going down, it depends how big are your outposts. So what you can do is start cutting parts of the base that you don't need. So for example, if you are done with your research, just destroy the labs and destroy the lines that feed those productions. See here, for example, this is basically a big science production. I just do this and I just do something like this and the production is done. And this saves a bunch of UPS.
Okay, so I don't need to destroy everything, just the connection.
Yeah, just the ore lines, basically. Never cut power to something because it completely kills UPS.
Okay, good to know.
So always cut the ore lines, never cut the power. At some point you need to do this, which is the Solaris thing, and this is gonna be the only disconnected power network because it needs to be in its own network. More than one power network usually is difficult to handle for the game, but of course two will not have an impact on UPS. But if you do like 40, 50 different power networks, then yes. So I would suggest having one huge power network and only that. Other things that are a problem for UPS are power. So if you don't need power, or actually if you are using nuclear, just do something like this and kill your coal power. Your coal power, yeah. If you don't need, I said if you don't need science, just kill the ore lines and so on. However, as long as you don't, like, if for each outpost you build you go down let's say 2 UPS, as long as the increase in green chips production is more than in percentage, of course, than the decrease in UPS, then it's worth doing an outpost. So, for example, for my base, each outpost does roughly 24,000 green chips per minute, the big ones, these ones. So it is worth doing them if and they suck about 4 UPS, each of these outposts. So if I were to go from 60 to 56, it is basically a decrease of 1/15th. So if the 20,000 green circuits per minute are more than 1/15th of my production of green chips, then it's worth doing them. Otherwise, it's not.
Okay, so I could end up on a point where it's just better for me to wait than build.
Yeah, it could be possible. So, for example, if I am at 300,000 green chips per minute and I am at 60 UPS, the next outpost would put me at 56 UPS and put me at 320 green chips per minute, 320,000 green chips per minute. At this point, the decrease in UPS is worse than the increase in green chips production, so I just don't do the next outpost. On the other end, if it's the exact same situation, but I'm not at 300,000 green chips per minute, I am at, let's say, 150,000 green chips per minute, then it is worth doing the next outpost because the decrease in UPS is less than the increase in green chips production in percentage, of course. So it just depends how big are your outposts and what your computer can handle, of course.
Okay. Also, I'm gonna ask, what is the most important component in the computer for the running the game smoothly?
It's well, there are two things that are extremely important. Is the single core speed of the CPU and the latency and the speed of the memory.
Okay, not the amount of the memory, just the speed and latency.
Yeah, speed and latency. So basically, the latency is the number that says CL, I don't know, like 16, CL 14, CL 18, and the lower the better. And for the speed, you will have a memory that has like 2000 megahertz, 3000 megahertz, 3200 megahertz, and so on. And the higher it is, the better. To see how good a memory is, usually you take the CL and you divide it by the speed, and the lower is the number, the better. Or you can do the opposite thing and divide the memory speed by the latency, and the higher the better. So, for example, I have CL14 3200 megahertz memory, and it is quite a good memory. It's DDR4, and it's quite a good memory. Usually, the very cheap memories right now are 3200 megahertz, but CL16. The ones that go for like $50 on Amazon, something like that. Like 8 gigs, 50 euros on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm looking at my RAM. I guess it's not fast. It's CL15 and it's 3000 megahertz.
Okay, so if you do the ratio, 3000 divided 15, it's a bit slower than mine, for example, and it has a bit higher latency. So overall, you can expect a worse performance compared to my memory, for example. But it's still a pretty good memory. CL15 is it's quite pushed, and 3000 megahertz is pretty good.
Okay.
So depending on what is your single core clock speed of your CPU, either the CPU or the memory can be the bottleneck.
So I guess the CPU will be the bottleneck.
What CPU do you have?
I have the Ryzen 5 3600.
3600 or 5600?
It's 3006. I can just link it.
Yeah, okay. So I definitely think is the is the CPU then. Yeah, but it's a pretty good CPU, to be fair. It's just a bit old on the years. I would say that is the bottleneck, but it should be a pretty good computer. I mean, yeah, I probably can't handle these bays at 60 UPS, but should be pretty decent. Do you know about Factorio benchmark?
No.
Okay, so it is a site that is used mainly by the technical Factorio community. I'll give you a link right now.
I mean, I know it's existing, and I know they can measure the speed and so on, but I'm not into it.
Oh, was it Factorio box? Maybe? Yeah, it's this one. It's this site over here, and there basically you can you can run a benchmark of your own computer if you want. But if you go to results, you will find two maps that are made by me, which are 100% maps. And if you check them under the results and you sort them by CPU, so on that website you go to CPUs, then press my map, for example, you will be able to see which CPU has which performance, and you can find your CPU, so the AMD Ryzen 5 3600 6-core processor, and you will be able to see which are the expected results for a typical CPU like yours. If you click on the single result, so the numbers to the right, they will take you to the single test, and they will also give you an insight on what memory they used and at what speed.
Okay, yeah, so I would definitely look at this.
So for example, on the map that is called Warger 100% map, my current PC does about 90 UPS. It is not the map that we are on right now. This map is way more intensive than the one that is on the website. And yours, instead, I see here that would be expected to do about, where is it? I found earlier. Oh, there it is. Between 70 and 55, depending on which memory you have.
So pretty good.
So, yeah, I would say probably with your memory about 65, 60, 65, something like that. So it's pretty good. It's not the best CPU for Factorio, of course, but it's still pretty good. I would be surprised if you didn't have UPS issues at the very end of the run, but I don't think they will impact you at all, basically. Because if you don't have blueprints, it's
way slower to build.
Yeah, it's like you will have way more of your final green chips produced from your early base than from the outpost compared to me, for example. Just because you will do so much, like it will just it will just take more time, so they have more time to produce. Another thing that I want to give you was my guide.
Yeah, for the 100% and for the Truck Like a Pro.
Yeah, so there it is. Working? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And this is a guide that uses my blueprints, but it focuses more on the Gotlap achievement, and it also has a list of the things that you need to do by hand at the beginning. So you can check it out, and it has basically everything. Of course, the more you go through the guide, so up to Blue Science, you're probably gonna do basically the same thing that is in the guide, because there are also things that you build by hand here in 100%. So the starting base, I mean, you could almost copy my design or Nefrum's design, the one that you like the most, and just build it. Because it's like I built this to make sure that it's fast to build by hand. So it's mostly straight belts. There is not very much
spaghetti going on.
Sorry?
Not very much spaghetti going on.
Yeah, exactly. There is not very much spaghetti at all. The later parts, so after bots, of course I started doing insane spaghetti messes, because I don't build them, the bots build them. But you can just copy parts of the base, basically. So your red chips production, you just copy and paste it over and over and over again.
Yeah, my base will definitely be less compact.
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, you will also be closer to the outer resources, so it's not necessarily a bad thing.
True.
Base is less compact, because you will need less belts to connect the various ore patches, and if you have a less centralized production of things, the bots on average actually take less time to build things. Of course, they have more travel time, so it kind of balances out, but still.
Okay, so I don't know if I have any more questions.
Well, if you think of something, just let me know. I will always answer on Discord, and if you need anything else. I think I gave you a rough outline on what is going on here.
Yeah, I'll definitely just jump into the single player and design some stuff, build something, practice a bit with the get on the track.
Yeah, just make sure that you have a basic design for the various build that you need to do. So the initial mall, the Gotlap, a strategy for Gotlap, then the second mall, the various sciences, and then all the things that you need for the green chips. So module build, components build for beacons, electric furnaces, and roboports. Probably you will need a lot of roboports, and basically a design for a green chip outpost, and that's it. If you decide to go nuclear, then you need to do a design for nuclear and nuclear components as well. But yeah, overall, it's probably a lot of work, but it's not an insane amount. It's like 5 huge builds that you need to somewhat know.
Yeah, I just need to design them easy enough to remember.
Yeah, that's probably the hard part. But yeah, just stealing a bunch from the any percent is probably worth. So I would also use a lot of the any percent guide because it has a bunch of straightforward designs that are easy to build.
Yeah, definitely.
So for
I will do
example,
it.
if you need to do red ship.
Hello? I can't hear you. I broke the Discord. Something is wrong. Did it crash? Yeah, my Discord just crashed. Hello? I think the Discord servers just died. I cannot connect to the chat. Okay, so seems like something has died with the Discord. But I think it's everything for today. So yeah, maybe I'm gonna upload it. I don't know. We'll see. So, see ya!